Welcome to Rom Wills, Money Matters, adapting to the business environment. And this is very important during this time because, recently I got like some actual like face mask. Now they weren't like the medical type of face mask, which would have been ideal, but those are tough to come by. So what's happened is a lot of people have purchased, either made their own or purchased handmade masks from different people. And I was thinking about it because I got like some masks for myself, some masks for my sons, and from this person I had purchased, young man I had purchased T-shirts from, like going back to the '90s. Like I first met this brother at a vending show, and we were right next to each other. And I bought like his shirts. I got a couple of his shirts, and gradually bought stuff from him over the years when I would see him at vending things. And I was just going through my IG one day and saw he had masks. Now, plenty of people had masks, but see, one thing about me, and I had talked about this last week about having a business network. It's very important. So when I see somebody I know, and their products were always good because like one of the things I got them like in the '90s, and it's still wearable. It is just a T-shirt. It is still wearable, and so I said, okay, I know this dude got good stuff. He always makes it from good quality material, so I got some masks from him. But then I thought about that. I was like, a couple months ago, he didn't even need to make masks, or many other people, because there's somebody else, another young lady I had met at a vending show, and she was making masks. But hers were more, see, the only thing, I would have got some from her, but those were more for women. So I was just like, man, she had some for dudes. But whatever the case, so these are two people making money in this environment. They adapted to this environment. Another case is when many personal trainers or people who maybe teach yoga classes or exercise classes, aerobic classes, like group exercise classes. I like that many of them from their homes are actually teaching like workouts. In fact, some people might not have been working in a gym or something. They doing videos or they doing stuff on Zoom, like Zoom, and that's a big adaptation to it. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But they doing stuff where they're getting their clients online. In fact, I had a dear friend. She's a personal trainer, and she does group exercise classes, and she hit me up and was asking me some questions about how to set up everything, right? Once again, that business network, but also she's adapting, right? And what I was going to say about Zoom, I read that the founder of Zoom made like $2 billion, not $2 million, not $100 million, $2 billion, because so many people are hitting that up. But that's adapting. Like one of the things is, how do you adapt to it? Like you have some people, like say you had like I'll tell you another one, like people who do like those home deliveries. They go shopping for people, the businesses like that. Now since I go shopping for myself, I don't really know the names, but those got big. They adapted, and that's a key, because one thing in business, you never know what's going to happen. Yes, everything could stay the same for months, years, decades. But then when you have something like this, you got to adapt. And also when you might have a natural disaster in a place, you have to adapt. Like you have to adapt as best as possible. Now, unfortunately, there were many businesses that weren't in a place to adapt. There many just couldn't, just based on what they did, where they were. They might not have been an essential business. Now, for them, I don't really know what to say. Just I hope they had enough savings or get some loans or something like that to stay afloat some way. But then some other businesses, they figured out a way. Like you might, like say you had a business where you were making, it could be something like you were just at your home making meals for people. Well, you just have to deliver. Probably have to just deliver to outside somebody's home or something. You didn't have to come in. Get a mask from one of these people making a mask and everything. Still keep it up. You always have to think about that. It's like, okay, how can I adapt? How can I adapt? And this has nothing to do with actually business, but just my big thing was always going to the gym, throwing up those weights. I had to adapt. In fact, I didn't adapt quick enough. I should have bought the weights. But I said, oh, nah, we'll be open again in a week. Yeah, right. But business wise, and you got to have that anyway, because everything will, come to a semblance of normal. It's not going to be quite the same, but you got to think, well, what if this comes back? What if this happens again? And then what if it's something else? You just never know. You never know. In the business, you have to have a very good structure, and make sure everything good order in it. But you always have to leave room for shifting gears or something. You always have to leave room for it. You always got to think, okay, what's the contingency plan? If this happens, then what? Always have something, even if it's a business that normally wouldn't even need anything. All right? Because even with what I do, now my main thing is publishing. I've actually benefited from this. But, even then I was adapting, you know, increasing production on some of my other websites and everything. And really sitting down thinking, okay, what can I do? Now, the biggest thing I haven't been able to do is vend. That's the biggest thing. But my online sales have actually increased. So that's an adaptation. Like any business, like all the businesses that had an online component, they were ready. And they just shifted like with ease. Like every single business, especially if you have a product, you should be in position. You need to put yourself in a position where you can pivot. Especially if you have a product. Services, that's tough. I mean, that's unfortunate. Like direct service, unless it's something essential, like maybe plumbing work or like an emergency with like maybe appliances or something. Whatever the case, you need to be able to pivot. You need to be able to do something. Or, something that a lot of restaurants did, right? What did a lot of restaurants do? They shifted to online orders. Now, that was something they had, many restaurants had that anyway, but people weren't big on it. But it was like when they was shut down, but say, oh yeah, they could still do it. They needed to shift. They needed to shift and figure out a way to do it. Always have that contingency in there. Very important to stick with that. So anyway, y'all know what to do. Let's go make that money.